with the Lost Boys soundtrack.
How could you forget about you, scum?
Get out.
Just when you're saying it now, I'm like, of course, it's like, because it's iconic.
Yes.
But it is. It's like, I think for certain people it is anyway. But it's, I don't know. It's either like, I mean, the whole thing, that's like your favorite band, Mark, Gunship. They
Exactly.
their last song kind of like Dark All Day, or one after last song, one of the latest ones, where they have like David from the Lost Boys and all the other vampire hunters in it and stuff. But they have Tim Capello, who was the sax man from the Lost Boys, playing. I remember reading an interview with him there when he was saying it's great. He said, I just popped up for that thing for like, you know, a little bit. I didn't think anything of it, and fucking 30 years later, people are still talking about it to me. It's
You know, it could have done with its own like kind of like compilation soundtrack instead of like a big orchestral one done by like Hans Zimmerframe and all those guys. Would have been the original Stargate. Wouldn't that have been a complete different tonal shift if they just, you know, had like
Benny
like
Hill
hair
music,
metal and all that.
yeah, fucking Cinderella. The Back to the Future soundtrack as well, like Huey Lewis and the News. That, like, I don't think as many people would have went to see Back to the Future, only for The Power of Love was a massive hit. And
you really call it a soundtrack though, because like there's The Power of Love and like Back in Time, and the rest are just more orchestral pieces to it.
But that's
not
what they
orchestral, but you know, they're kind of motion or music pieces to it.
But all that they needed at the time was like one hit from it that promote the movie and the movie. Because, like, I mean, you look at it with a lot of the Dracula soundtrack it's all orchestral, but they kind of sold it as being like Annie Lennox because they had like Annie Lennox's song at the very, very end of it for the credits, that love song for a vampire, which is an amazing song. But it's not the soundtrack was just like, shit, we need to try and sell and promote this.
You tell me why anybody went to see Maximum Overdrive.
Oh, it's to see the Green Goblin.
Yeah. The AC/DC soundtrack, I don't think anyone went to see it at the time. I think it was straight to video.
I think they went to see it to see Stephen King and all the cocaine.
Yeah.
That's true, yes.
Because like there was like The Last Action, like AC/DC have done a ton of soundtracks actually. They did Iron Man 2, wasn't it? Like The Last Action Hero as well was AC/DC.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a big thing, big pushing kind of thing with it. But what I was going to say, fucking for people kind of like all this shit that all these losers are interested in, other than me, it's the best soundtrack out there without a shadow of a doubt.
Hot Rod.
Changed. No, a generation.
It's Hot Rod.
No, it's Judgment Night.
No, it's Hot Rod.
No, Judgment Night. For people who weren't familiar,
really?
It was
why is that the best one? Before
rap metal or anything like that, it was the first crossover between loads of metal bands and rap stars, and it's really, really rich. It still holds up. There's some amazing songs on it. If Sonic Youth, fucking doing the Dinosaur Jr.
Oh, sure, you're going to say like Lost Highway or something like that.
Lost Highway's all right, but it's not great. I don't know. Wouldn't be out of all those ones. I think that Reznor was involved with. It probably Natural Born Killers. I think was a real, like in the terms of like compilation soundtracks. There's like a varied, massive varied, like, you know.
Right, I'll let you talk a bit about that, but let's swing back around to like Queen of the Damned at some stage.
Queen of the Damned was pretty. Totally forgot about Queen of the Damned actually.
Let's swing back around and let you talk about.
Well, yeah, Judgment Night. Yeah, if anyone hasn't listened to Judgment, the movie is pretty good as well actually. But it's fucking just amazing thing, especially the oh god, it's Booyah Tribe and Mike Patton from Fate No More. Well, Fate No More doing Another Body Murdered, which was like one of the main songs for it. I think you got like corny stuff in there as well, like Onyx with Biohazard. But it's like, if you like Biohazard, you like that was the way kind of like some hardcore stuff was at the time. But the like with Cypress Hill and Sonic Youth doing it's just fucking fantastic. Like, really amazing soundtrack. But yeah, Queen of the Damned, totally forgot about that. Jonathan Davis's first foray into being a solo artist. I was like, and as well, what was the whole kind of story with that as well? He went off, recorded it all with his own vocals, and then his record company label said, "No, you can't.
We're not releasing you to do that.
Yeah, you can't do it." And he was like, "What the fuck?" So everyone that he knew, kind of all the artists, pulled in behind him. I did the vocals on the album from, which probably made it a better album. So he had like Marilyn Manson coming in,
Kidney Thieves.
Your man from Orgy
came in. Yeah. There's Marilyn Manson came in. There's a good few artists stepped in and sort of, as you said, it was all the better for it because you had a range of artists in, but they were all kind of doing Jonathan Davis style lyrics and content and stuff like that. But it was a fucking pretty awesome soundtrack compilation. All the rest, all kind of new metal-y.
Did you ever listen to it, Mark?
No, as you're going through it now, I'm just kind of adding extra pieces to my list to go back because this one's pretty new to me.
It's the movie is awful. This is the thing as well. There's a lot of kind of
there's
awful
no
horror movies,
shit films that had really good soundtracks.
Yeah, and the thing is, it went off because of a fan of the original interview with the vampire and read a lot of the book. Well, all the books. And the
only reason I think Queen of the Damned, the film as well, kind of did a little bit better was poor old Aaliyah ended up dying quite soon after the film. But I think she might have even died before the film was released.
Oh, I think she did, yeah. But it was the whole thing was because it was going to carry. They said that it was combining the stat with the Queen of the Damned, which are two massive books. So it was like, how the fuck are they going to do this in there? And they couldn't do it. They didn't do it justice at all. Some of the characters in it are a little bit look more like they should have, like the way that they do in the books. But beyond that, it's an awful movie. But yeah, the soundtrack for that did that a fucking lot of favours. The soundtrack probably made more money
absolutely than the film movie did, even worldwide.
But at that stage as well, you had a lot of metal people going off and did Marilyn Manson did the soundtrack to Resident Evil, the first one, which is pretty good actually as well. But that's more of an OST thing. As well, actually speaking of metal, Rob Zombie soundtracks to these movies. I think for kind of compilation things, they're brilliant.
They're totally unexpected for someone like Rob Zombie as well. You're normally expecting, we're going to get some fucking psychedelic metal or something like that with him, but it's real 70s groove sort of.
But it's like the perfect mixtape. The way that they're composed, like for The Devil's Rejects, I think is amazing the way it's done. There's a lot of songs. They're not hit songs on it. But they fit really well, and then you have Freebird, of course, in there at the end. But there's a perfect build-up. But obviously, because he's been a working musician for all his life, he understands the flow of an album.
Actually plays into where it actually should fit.
And it really works.
That's everyone talks about Quentin Tarantino being, because obviously Reservoir Dogs was probably one of the big hits. And
as well, Reservoir Dogs was really, really smart at the time, the way that they did it like a radio station.
Yeah, Steve Wright sort of with the bland intonation in the middle, and that's no, you just had.
But the soundtrack to Pulp Fiction was really good. That was massive as well. Marizlio. Is that what it was called? That was fucking Girl, You'll Be a Woman soon. That was fucking massive.
I still do Reservoir Dogs. I think was far better though.
What I think is a good example of it kind of has revived kind of what Quentin Tarantino was doing back then, in the sense that he takes kind of these disparate songs and not exactly hyper popular songs, but also fuses them and creates a great atmosphere. I think what did that a great deal, did a really good job for that is Baby Driver. Not a really great movie, but a really great soundtrack, because I remember coming out of it going, I want to just listen to more of those songs that I just heard. And I know especially that's kind of geared up towards the music, but it just does it very well. It's like a masterclass at how to do footage to music.
You've actually just reminded me, something that actually kind of draws on that whole thing is Grand Theft Auto, the game.
Yeah, it is.
It draws on that whole sort of classic kind of soundtrack to a film thing.
I don't know if they ever released the soundtrack though. I think people have done playlists and stuff.
They definitely did for Vice City. You could get the soundtracks for Vice City, and they had the ads done into them as well, like the ads in the radio stations as well as separate ones, but also all the hits that they have on the radio in there as well.
Well, that's for another section.
That's what I was saying. It gets kind of meta there, doesn't it?
Because get into video game, because that's a totally different kind of thing. Well, as well, I suppose.
Hot Rod. Can we talk about Hot Rod? That's the best soundtrack ever, though. You've got to hear the voice.
Cheese.
It is, but it suits the film so well. I mean, it's.
Why is Hot Rod your favorite soundtrack, Laura? Because
it's my favorite film as well. It's just a perfect mix of everything. It's a perfect cheese to go with the perfect cheesy film, and you've got the absolute blast out scene of like You're the Voice by John Farnham, where everyone just
genius. The
honestly, if nobody's seen the film Hot Rod, you should go and see the film. You should stop even listening to this podcast immediately.
They did before. I think
Hot Rod.
It's well.
Yeah, that You're the Voice scene. Like I think eventually after you trying for so long to get me to watch it, you were like, look, just go watch this scene.
This
you don't
one
like
scene.
that scene.
Yeah.
Then
you're not going to like the rest of the film. Yeah.
So I watched that and then I went up and was like, okay, I have to go watch this movie then.
Watch the rest of it.
I did, but that is just because of that song. It just fits it so
fucking perfectly. It's just, I can't believe how well that song fits it. And I'm sure poor John Farnham is probably just like, why?
Actually, with comedy movie, like, I mean, it's Todd Phillips' soundtracks are normally very, very good as well. Like, for The Hangover, there's some fucking really, really, really good songs. Like, unusual choice. Like, there's Danzig songs.
Yeah.
Over the thing. But, like, old school.
Yeah,
that soundtrack is fun. I don't like fucking Ryan Adams at all, but I love that song when that opens it up. It just fits.
There's an awful lot of Will Ferrell. Like, I mean, at the end of Step Brothers, where they start singing at the Catalina fucking wine mixer. I mean, some of those they shouldn't work, but they work so well.
That's it's kind of like having that ear and putting like songs in unusual kind of thing. Of course,
I suppose if we're going in that regard as well, one that I only remember now when you kind of said that would have been School of Rock.
Yeah, yeah, pretty fucking good. Actually.
Well, actually, I can't believe I forgot. I just looked down at my list and I saw it.
You've done a list. I'm just going off like, oh my God, this is brilliant in my head.
You gotta imagine kind of like trying to plan stuff. But like, I mean, one of the things about like sound, it's like a purpose-built soundtrack. Well, two purpose-built soundtracks that, like, you know, were groundbreaking for time. You have Top Gun, Kenny Loggins. Kenny Loggins had a shitload of Caddyshack.
Highway to the
but of course, it was fucking or Berlin. That really so it would take my breath away.
Yes.
He must have been bastards. Fucking Danger Zone is much better. Fucking Swedish cunts. But fucking the Crow soundtrack.
Yes.
Nearly all of those songs, a few of them weren't written specifically for the Crow soundtrack, but a lot of them were specific to it, and it spawned like the Crow 2 and 3 soundtrack as well. 3 for a movie that didn't exist, but it was just having those different mixture of bands doing things together. But like the Crow soundtrack is still probably one of the best movie soundtracks ever. And like,
you know what, like when you're saying that as well, like I think this soundtrack as well was, I think they asked a bunch of artists to write some of the like songs that were done for this, and the soundtrack pretty much right after it came out and to this day was always just 10 times better than it ever was as a movie, was the Suicide Squad soundtrack. Like that has
Grimes'
a lot
song
of
on that
hits.
is fucking brilliant. Grimes' song is amazing. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like really fucking heavy.
Grimes in general is just quite good anyway.
But yeah, actually, Mark, that's a good call because I haven't really listened to a lot of modern soundtracks.
Because like it's one that like a lot of people would overlook because the movie was just a garbage fire. Yeah, it was just terrible, but it had a great soundtrack, and like it shouldn't be overlooked because I remember like some of the ads you'd see on like YouTube and Spotify beforehand, before it came out, were playing some of those songs, and you like they get stuck in your head. So it was one of the first kind of times when the soundtracks like that were making a resurgence. So it was like, let me go off and find that soundtrack and just listen to it. I had no interest in seeing the movie, but I really wanted to get hands on the soundtrack.
Well, that's the thing about kind of like soundtracks as well.
They will draw you in. Like, I mean, that's.
Sorry, go on, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, like, I mean, if you remember Watchmen, when all the trailers, so that started playing, they were cutting the trailers to fucking awesome pieces of music.
That's what Zack Snyder is very good at picking music too. Yeah. It's the same with like for 300, and it doesn't appear in the soundtrack.
That's what I was going to say. It doesn't. It draws you in. You're like
right below, I think.
Yeah, for fuck's sake, it's not on the soundtrack. Then like Jesus bastards.
But Trent Reznor also do. I haven't seen this now, so if you haven't either, it's kind of I'm going down a little bit of the rabbit hole. But didn't Trent Reznor also do the soundtrack for The Social Network?
Yeah.
He did. Trent Reznor won an Oscar for that.
Yeah,
and he also did.
That was more of a score, though, rather than that's not what you would necessarily call.
Right. As I said, I didn't see it myself, so I just
he's done Girl with Dragon Tattoo, and he's done an awful lot of other.
The Girl with Dragon Tattoo is fucking amazing. Does a cover with Sharon O. Is that her name from the Yeahs of Led Zeppelin's
Sharon O.
What the fucking kind of we come from the land of the ice and snow? Immigrant Song.
Yes.
Brilliant, but like it's for all fans, Trent Reznor here, apart from Mark, who doesn't like him because he's white. But
yeah, you know me. If it's white, it ain't right.
Well, a movie like we'll probably come back to this soundtrack at some stage because I'd imagine we'll end up getting into grunge at some stage in the future on an episode. But the single soundtrack, the movie went back looking at it. I used to love it years ago. Went back looking at it a while ago. It doesn't hold up at all.
No.
But like the soundtrack, just a couple of shit songs on like
good all around though.
The main one, like a dyslexic heart. That nah.